Impact of demonetization as revealed by the Economic Survey 2016 and 17. It has been about 8 months since the historic demonetization took place in India. As much as 15 lakh crores of old 500 rupee notes and 1000 rupee notes were withdrawn with a stroke of one announcement from the Prime Minister. Of course, the well-known objectives of the demonetization was spelled out very clearly by the government. That is to root out the black money, the corruption, and prevent inflation, and also lead the country towards the cashless economy. Of the 15 lakh crores that was withdrawn, nearly 80% of the old currency was, however, back in the banking system. Now, it was expected that about 3 lakh crore rupees would not come out of the black money economy and not in the open. And this 3 lakh crores rupees would be a windfall profit for the banks or the government. The impact of the demonetization has been a complex, and it has multidimensional aspects from a common man to our banking system of the nation. The impacts have been short-term and long-term as well. The short-term impact, for example, have been the cash crunch, fall in demand, fall in production, and fall in GDP, etc. However, the long-term impacts which the government expects are many, such as the reduction in black money, increase in tax collections, fall in corruption, the increase in digital economy, etc. In this essay, we will examine various aspects of short-term and long-term impacts in many areas, and we will study this in the form of a chart as we go along with various aspects. First of all, we will take up the money or the interest rates impact in terms of the short-term as well as long-term impacts. In the short-term impact, the cash declined, of course, very sharply, and there were cash crunches observed all over the nation, and the ATMs saw unprecedented queues all over the country. However, the bank deposits increased sharply, and the RBI's balance sheet, however, remained unchanged because of the return of the currency reduced the central bank cash liabilities, but it increased its deposit liabilities to the commercial banks. As a result, the interest rates and deposits, the loans, and the government securities declined. This is all the short-term impact, possibly up to December and January. What were the long-term effects on the money and the interest rates? It is expected that in the long term, the cash will recover but settle at a lower level. The cash position will recover but settle at a lower level. The deposits will also record a decline, but probably they will settle at a slightly higher level than before. However, the RBI's balance sheet will shrink after the deadline for redeeming the outstanding notes ended. The loan rates, it is expected that could fall further. That is because the deposits could increase in the banks. Now let us take an overview of the financial system, how it has been affected and what are the impacts on the savings. Financial system in the long-term savings was very positive. The savings increased because as we could see it in the bank deposits. However, in the long term, there would be increase is expected, but to the extent that the cash deposit ratio will fall permanently. As regards corruption, the impact of corruption in the short term could not be measured. It is still time to expect. In the long term, it will definitely could decline, but same time incentives for the compliance should also improve. As said earlier, the biggest impact was expected on the unaccounted income and the black money, which was the underlying activity of the illicit economy. What is the impact? Impact on the black money on the short term was definitely positive. In this sense, the stock of the black money fell drastically, and in fact many holders of the black money came out in the tax net for the first time, and the existing taxpayers also came forward to pay additional taxes and the penalty. In terms of longer term effect, there will be a formalization of the entire economy and it will reduce the flow of unaccounted income. That is, we are talking about the black money aspect. Now, what is the impact of the demonetization on the private wealth of the citizens? In the short term, immediately it was felt that the private sector wealth declined. It was because the high demonetization notes were not returned and the real estate prices also fell. In the long term, it is expected that the wealth could fall further if the real estate prices continue to decline. The real estate is an important sector where the black money component is very high, and therefore the real estate has great impact on the private wealth of the citizens. And what about the public sector wealth? According to the economic survey, there has been no effect on the public sector wealth in the short term. However, in the longer term effect is that the government or RBI's wealth will increase considerably when the unreturned cash is totally extinguished, and it will reduce the liabilities of the public sector banks and the government. As a result, the government's wealth will, or the RBI's wealth will increase. One of the most important impact of the demonetization has been the digitization aspect as well as formalizing the economic or the financial transactions in the country as a whole. This impact was immediately felt in the short term itself, where the digital transactions among the new users increased sharply. So also the existing users' transactions increased in line with the historical trend. As for the long-term impact was that some return to cash as supply normalizes, but the digital revolution has set in the country and most of the transactions are being carried out even by a common man through the debit cards and credit cards, and the withdrawal of the money from the ATMs also will decline. As said earlier, what is the impact of the demonetization on the real estate? The impact was immediate. In the short term, the prices declined as said earlier, and so also the wealth fell, and the cash shortages of course impeded the transactions in the real estate. It was in a way badly affected in the short term. As far as the long-term impact on the real estate is concerned, prices will fall further and investing the undeclared income in real estate will become difficult. However, the government will be the gainer in this because the tax component will rise, and especially in the context of GST that has come in, the real estate will get taxed at a higher rate, and also it will yield a considerable amount of the revenue to the government. Now let us consider the impact of the demonetization on an overall economy. For example, the impact on the job. The effects on the job situation in the short term was that there were job losses. Country reported considerable job losses. There was also decline in the farm incomes because the farm agriculture transactions were taking place through the cash transactions only. There were also social disruptions. Many opposition parties opposed it, and especially in the cash sensitive sectors, this impact on the economy was big. The long-term impact is that it will gradually stabilize the entire situation, including the agriculture transactions, etc., and the economy will get remonetized once again in the long term. Overall, the demonetization impact on GDP in a short term was that the growth has slowed down in the short term. It has reduced the demand, that is the cash and the private wealth, and the supply also has reduced. It is because of the reduced liquidity and working capital, and the GDP also got disrupted because of the supply chains and there has been an increased uncertainty in the overall economy, and this affected the GDP growth. However, in the long term, the economic survey expects that this GDP growth will have a beneficial effect in the long run, subject of course that the formalization that has been expected, that has been proposed, and the digitization process increases, and also if the corruption falls. As said before, the cash intensive sectors, that is agriculture, the real estate, jewelry, etc., got affected more, and this contributed to the GDP decline as well. In the long term, again, the informal output could decline, but the recorded GDP would increase steadily as the economy becomes more and more organized, formalized, and also well accounted. One of the main beneficial aspects of the demonetization has been on the tax collection. The immediate impact that was felt on the tax collection was that the income taxes rose rapidly. It was because of the increased disclosures made by the individuals as well as the firms and corporations. And the payments to local bodies increased because the demonetized notes remained a legal tender and for tax payments and the clearances of the arrears. The likely long-term effect, according to the economic survey, is also likely to be very beneficial to the government. That is because the indirect and corporate taxes rates could decline. To that extent, growth could slow down in the long run, but the taxes will increase because of more accounting methods and the formalization, and this expands the tax base, and the compliance also will improve, and overall effect of tax collection of the nation is that it will tremendously boost the tax collection for the government. The demonetization also created a great sense of uncertainty and also credibility. Uncertainty increased because the firms and the households were unsure of the economic impact and the implications and the various investments. As a result, the investment decisions and the durable goods purchases also got postponed in the short term. As far as the long-term impact, this aspect is concerned, the economic survey predicts that the credibility of the government has strengthened, and it is accompanied by the complementary measures, that is early remonetization, and that is yet to take place, but it is very essential for the purpose, and the tax arbitrariness and the harassment, that sense of uncertainty and the fear of the government machinery could affect credibility unless the government takes a positive step to assure the citizens that there will not be such arbitrariness and the harassment as far as the tax collection is concerned. As said before, the demonetization has the biggest impact on the formalization of the economy as a whole, and in this the digitization process and the transactions will play a great role for the country to put it back on a more formal economy. This process cannot take place in a short term, therefore the short term impact cannot be said that there were immediate impacts. However, the likely longer term effect have been predicted to be very positive from the economic survey, and it is said that the digital revolution will take place in a big way. It has already taken the roots and it will continue in a bigger way. However, there will be some part of the economy that will always deal in cash, and however this digital revolution will be a major contribution from the demonetization. So as a result, it is expected in the long run that the prices will fall further because the investing in the undeclared income in real estate particularly will become more difficult, and the tax component could rise, especially as said before, GST is imposed on a real estate at a higher rate.